embodies a multifaceted approach to a professional endeavor. As a seasoned educator,
thank you very much. I want to say a very big thank you to God for being able to be here today. And I want to say thank you to White Hope for giving me this privilege, because I count it as a big honor. You know, when I saw the invitation, I asked him, what am I to say? Is it a lecture? He said, freelance, just speak. And so I'm going to do that from the depth of my heart. And this is coming from the fact that I believe that there are things that happen in our lives that will make deep impact. So anytime I have the opportunity to talk, I always want to give it my best, because I don't know the impact it's going to make in somebody's life. And I want to greet all the special guests. It's a privilege to have you all here. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm always willing to listen, because I have everybody has something to say. And that something is always important. And for some of my students here, you know, some of them, they see me as hard. And some of them, when they get close to me, they discover that, well, my being hard is just that I want the best to come out of you. When I look at students, I see potentials. And I'm happy that White Hope has that. Young, talented, optimistic, and full of potentials. And like I always tell some of them, you don't know precisely where you get to. You may think, okay, I will go high. But how high, you don't know if you give it your all. And Damilare was a student. And in part 2, I think I took a course. But it wasn't close to me. But when they were going to part 4, I happened to be the internship chairperson. So I called the class rep, because as internship chairperson, our part 4 in Faculty of Agri is for internship. It's a year of practical. So we had to go on a trip, and I had to work with the class rep. So I called for the class rep, but the assistant class rep came, who happened to be Damilare, because the class rep had one issue or the other that prevented him from moving with his class. And so when he came, I told him, class rep. He said, no, I'm assistant class rep. I said, one way or the other, because you don't have a class rep, you are the class rep. So he became the class rep for his set. And the set happened to be quite large. I think they were almost 400. And we had to travel outside of school. And of course, you can imagine the type of preparation that one will take. And I noticed passion in Damilare. I noticed somebody with order. It was so orderly. He could be trusted with his class money. And if you know Damilare, you will know White Hope. Because he will wear the shirt. Damilare will talk White Hope. Damilare will breathe White Hope. Damilare will eat White Hope. So because, and of course, you know, we have to travel for some days. So I had to ask, please, what is this White Hope? You will wear the shirt. I will see people greet him, White Hope, White Hope, White Hope. And that was how he introduced White Hope to me. And when he introduced White Hope, I was impressed. And I asked him, do you know what it takes to have an NGO? He started telling me a lot of things. And I could see a young man full of passion. I could see a young man with drive. And I did not only know him that time, I got to know some other people in the organization. And not long after, I had to organize a training program. And I told him. And the way he brought in his White Hope people for the organizing and everything. You see, the people who were collaborating together from the Netherlands, they were so impressed. Till today, they are still in contact and in touch with the organization. So I want to say, White Hope, you are doing well. And, you know, when I checked on the social media, I wasn't a great social media person before now. And Damilare, you know, is my PA. And, of course, eventually, it transited to becoming my son. And I'm proud to call him one. And, that time we were talking, and he said, Ma, you have so many stuff you can put. And I told him, I said, of course, I know about social media. But at that time, all my mind was, I wanted to become a professor. I needed to put in papers. I needed to do a lot of things. And he said, Ma, but you can still do it. And, practically every time we will come, Ma, you can do it. I said, okay, which one should I start with? He said, LinkedIn. I said, of course, I have an account. He said, okay, let's do something with the account. I said, if anything you want to do, you can start doing with the account. And Damilari started. And he will come. You need to put content. I said, Damilari, as I'm sitting down, you are seeing me. All the content on my head was published, packaged, and And one day he said, no, Ma, you must put content. And he was always encouraging me. And sincerely, I really appreciated that. And I still appreciate it. And so one time we put the content, and he came and he said, I think, was it 100,000 impressions? How many? How many in 100,000? And he said, Ma, we have 100,000 impressions. And I said, what's that? And he said, people are reading. And I said, okay, good. I will start writing by and by. And I started. And, of course, I've not been as consistent as I would love to. But I know that at least I've been able to get some things from LinkedIn. And so that was how he actually totally became my PA. Until now, sometimes he tells me, okay, the content, I will write, I will send to you. Which picture should we put? Put and do it. So, so he became very close to me. And when I saw this on social media, and the title was beCOMING, and of course, I checked the vision of the team, of the organization. Of course, I'm quite interested in what they do. I saw the vision, the mission, and all that. And I could say that, okay, these people are on course. Because just like we have been told, it's not about just knowing what to do. It's about actually doing the do. And that is where a lot of people fail. I mean, education, academics, we go for a lot of conferences, but, to take the first step is actually a big deal for people. And there was a time I saw something, and they said if you can do something consistently for 1 month, it becomes a habit. And I tried doing something consistently for 1 month, and it did not become a habit. And so, I told myself, for each person, you must determine the point where it becomes a habit. And when we talk about beCOMING, I love that title. It talks about a journey, not particularly about a destination. Sometimes we look at what we like to achieve and we think of a destination, but actually life is a journey. And I'm going to say 1 or 2 things about myself and wish us well, then I'm going to take my seat. When I was growing up, my story is like for practically everybody in my age range, children of the 70s, early, mid-70s. We were living at a particular place in Ibadan. And it's not eyebrow or anything. I really don't think people were thinking so much eyebrow that time. So we're living there. And in that area, if you know how many of us were living in a house, it's not a slum, but you have a family with one uncle staying with them, one niece, one kidney, and by the time you know it, it was a big place. And of course, the area is well populated. So there was a time they were doing party. It was a burial ceremony. And I was saying, I was in primary school. I'm happy to see secondary school students here. Don't underestimate any experience. So I was in the house, and my father has one rule: no night party. So till I am now, I don't do anything night party. Club, I'm a Christian. I don't even like club. But okay, you are doing as one thing, and you want all of us to come. And look, by the time it's 8 o'clock, I'm going because my father instills that. Good or bad, I keep to it. So they were doing this party, and it was time for night party. And the front of our house was big that time. So they put the tent in front of our house, and the party was going on. And of course, I could not go there, but at least I can look. So I looked. So I stood with my playmates who were standing in front. And this car just came. When the car came, smartly dressed military guys just came out of the car, opened the door, and a woman came out dressed in native. And they saluted her. And after saluting her, she came, she danced, she did everything. And the band that was playing was the army band. I eventually got to know. And their song was very, very nice. So I was looking. So after they finished everything, we went in, and I was asking. She said, please, who is this woman? And they said, the daughter of the deceased. I said, but why did soldier followed her? They said she's a major in the military. I said, So they came, and sincerely, to my young mind, it was the best party anybody could have. And that day I told myself, when I grow up, I will become a major. So that I will be saluted. When I have to do anything, I will have honor. And sincerely, just that simple life experience clicked it for me. Got to secondary school, leaving secondary school, I wanted to write JAMB. And I said, please, I want to go to military, even in secondary school. That time, I want to go to the military. And they said, sorry, women are not allowed in NDA. If you want to get to NDA, funny, some of my friends that were guys that did it, I collected the past questions from them. And they said, no, females not allowed in military school. But if you still want to go to military school, you must be a professional. And I said, no problem. Then I'll go for a professional course. So I got to the university. And of course, eventually, I didn't go to the military. But sincerely, that drive. Because before knowing that a woman could not go to NDA that time, it was a drive. And what happened? I saw a party. And I'm sure somebody said, so it's only party. Yes, it was a party. That was the drive. And that is something I've noticed. When you have a drive, irrespective of where you are going, it will push you. So that drive pushed me to do a professional course. And by the time I finished university, going to military school was no more there. So I said, okay, after university, I like to lecture. And I started looking for a lecturing job. And somebody told me, when you are looking for a lecturing job, no, you will do PhD. I said, I'll finish my master's. And immediately I finished my master's, I got a job. And my husband said, go and register PhD. And I said, I would like to rest. And he said, no, you cannot rest. You already know, since you said you would like to go into academics, you must do PhD. I didn't find it funny because I have a very young family. I had to leave my baby 10 months to travel, to do some work. And my husband, too, is a medical doctor. That was the time he was doing his residency in pediatrics. So it was really, really not convenient at all. And sometimes I ask myself, what exactly is your problem? Somebody even called me and said, what is your problem? Is it that your husband cannot feed you? And I said, yes, he can feed me. He said, so what is this drive? I want to get this. I want to... And, I had to sit down and I looked back. And I could still remember that story from my primary school. And I could still feel the impact of that singular drive driving me. And another time I had to travel, and we got there. And they said, in this place, it is bicycle. And I told my friend, I said, how many years ago I've been driving bicycle? I never tried bicycling in my life in Nigeria. I'm not coming to another place to be driving bicycle to where. But one day, somebody wanted to teach me how to ride. And I was struggling. And somebody said, and very, very saucy girl. I used to call her saucy in a class. And said, don't you think you are too old? And I looked at her and I said, at how old? 40 what? Who is old? And that day I told myself, young lady, you pick up that bicycle. And I asked myself, precisely what has been stopping me from learning to ride. Number one, I was fearful. I didn't want to break any bones. And actually, that was the main thing. And I didn't want anybody to laugh at me. So I told myself, let them laugh. But one thing you won't do is you won't break bone. But one thing you will do is you will learn to ride. And I got on my bicycle and I cycled. And after that time, I would cycle from the town I was living to the nearest town. I started cycling. And I sat down one day to look at things. And when I looked at White Top, it said the coming together of like minds. Actually, we are what our mind is. And I'm sure that our speakers today are going to do a lot about that. I read this guy's book, Andy Andrews. I like this guy, Lipton. I read Joe Dispenza. I love reading. And one thing I have noticed, and I want to live with it, because I don't know if it's going to impact anybody. Like that woman never knew she impacted me during her party for her mother. And that is number one. Take responsibility for your life. And that starts with your mindset. I discovered that a lot of people have victim mindset. It is the fault of so-so person. It's the fault of Nigeria. I was going through a research paper, and they said humans, we are 99.9% the same. Genetically, 99.9, every human being. Of course, we all descended from the same ancestors. And I was asking, so the 0.1, is that what is making the difference? And I looked and I said, okay, is the environment? If we are 99.9%, don't let me look at what could be the difference in human in genetics. Don't overdo it. Of course, we know there are some differences, but when you are 99.9% the same, look for something else. I looked at environment and I read things, phenotypic plus genotypic. If it is environment, then everybody in developing countries should not do well, and everybody in developed countries should do well. That's not it. And I read a particular article about identical twins. You see some identical twins. One is perfect, the other one is something else. So that means what makes us is what is within us. It's our mindset. And how do we change our mindset? I'm sure that is what we are doing here, capacity building. When we allow knowledge to come into us, to change our opinion of ourselves. So please, I want to implore every one of us today, let us come with open mind and open heart to listen. Capacity building is not just about skill. The first thing capacity building does is to change your mindset. Until your identity changes, you cannot change what you do. We have been saying, no, I can't do it. If you don't see yourself do it, you won't do it. I'm the solution Africa is waiting for. If you don't believe it, you won't do it. But if you are foolish enough to believe it, you discover that you do it. We have seen people with potentials. I tell my children, it's not all about potentials. I've seen students with big potentials, but they've not been able to do anything. And I've seen some that you think they don't have so much potential. But because of what and how they see themselves. On my phone, there is a picture of a cat looking at itself and seeing a lion. That cat will do what a lion will do. So please, today, let's keep a broad mind, open mind, change our mindset, because I can assure you, where you can get to, you don't know yet. My parents are not fantastically educated, but my father will always tell me, Bukola, loju emi, oh the professor. And I was looking, this Baba is going to 80. If I have to be a professor in his lifetime, I must move. And I'm happy to say I became a professor. He's still alive while he's still alive. And, you know, whenever he would tell me, Loju Emi, me what the professor, I started saying myself, you're a professor. It's just that you have not been declared. My professorship was announced February, but it was backdated to 2019. Meaning that since 2019, I've been a professor. Although I might not have been seeing myself. I might not have been doing things like that. But the most important thing for everybody, so that you don't cheat yourself out. And thankfully, God helped me not to do that. You know, when you want to apply for some things, they will put it there. Must be a professor. But actually, I'm a professor, but I am not yet a professor because I've not been declared. I started applying, and I was getting there. And the day I was announced, I told myself, I have not missed anything, except for salary. I have not missed anything for not being pronounced in 2019. So please, I want everyone to keep an open mind. You can get anywhere, but it's about your mindset. And when you think you have gotten to your topmost, you'll be able to still see further and be able to set another one. So it's actually a journey, it's not a destination. Professor said since 2019,